I actually talked to Hunter last night, and I go, so Steve Austin and Mick Foley can say things, and make suggestions and critique the company, especially Mick recently, right? I mean, really saying that the 70-year-old Vince McMahon wasn't in touch with things anymore. I mean, have you read all that, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So how does he get away with that and still get invited to the Hall of Fame?
I think just out of respect for what he's done in the business.
What if I said? What if I said that? Where would I be?
I think you'd be in the same position as Mick. I think certain guys, just because of their history in terms of drawing money and in terms of being able to perform and really exceed in what WWE needs out of them, they end up kind of in this plum position where they have the ability to speak out and talk about things. I mean, if it was Darren Young and Titus O'Neil writing these things today, they'd be done. There's no way WWE would ever appreciate that. But I think you, Rick, you might be a little bit more political in what you had to say, but if you had something that you didn't like about the creative direction or the way the company is being produced, you might say something, and I don't think it would turn into like you're going to get a hard look the next time you walk backstage. I think Mick's kind of the same way, but Mick's also had that love-hate relationship with them where he's kind of left and come back a couple of times, and they've always given him freedom when he worked for them, when he wrote his books, to kind of speak out about things that he didn't care about and things that maybe weren't happy memories in his mind. And if they accepted it then, they're going to have to accept it now.
No. First of all, I have a great relationship with Mick now, and we had a great show with him, Conrad and I. I'm just, I feel I would be very uncomfortable, and here's what what I'm saying. I'm there a lot now, obviously, and I'm behind the scenes, and I'm watching everything being put together. I'm watching the construction of segments, and I'm watching the hours of hard work put in by everybody to bring the shows together, the live ones, especially like the pay-per-views and Raw. But equally as hard of a SmackDown, but it's a tape show. So the problem I have is you're not there. To me, Mick has become a Monday morning quarterback. He's only observing what he's watching on TV. You know what I mean? And right. I don't think it's fair to the company to be ostracized or scrutinized by someone that's not there. I mean, we've got multiple health issues right now with injuries to Seth. I mean, now Cesaro's out till May. Randy Orton, indefinitely. Seth Rollins, Randy Orton, Cesaro. I mean, these injuries pile up, and 1 minute they look healthy and loaded as can be. Next minute, the roster gets depleted. I mean, it happens overnight, and they're trying to fix these holes. And I'm seeing this behind closed doors. Like the other day, at Raw Monday, Kevin Owens in the main event, he was too sick to perform. I mean, he had the flu so bad that they excused him from the show. But it changes what everybody's writing down, and that's the part I'm pointing out. It's easy to say this can happen, but if you're not there on top of it, watching it take place or unfold or come together, whatever the terminology would be, it's just hard for me to understand how you sit back and critique it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I think there's always mitigating circumstances to anything you're producing. And, one thing that I've said, and I've voiced this of late, is that, nobody goes out there with the intent of having a bad show. No wrestler has ever walked to the ring, and I'm sure you've never walked to the ring going, I'm going to have a crappy match tonight. I don't really want to do anything tonight. No performer in any aspect of any entertainment realm does that. And I don't think the writers or the creative team in WWE actively sit down looking to write a show that they think is going to tank. Sometimes things happen and things don't click the way that they expect. Sometimes performers don't live up to the expectations that are put upon them. That's life. It's not wrestling. That's just a life thing. Sometimes things don't work out. I think when you look at things from, the way that Mick is writing about them, the average person at home watching, they only know what's being broadcast to them. So to them, they're going to determine their opinions and how they feel about something based upon what they're seeing. Like you just mentioned the Kevin Owens thing. Nobody would have known that if you hadn't just mentioned it. Obviously it came out that Kevin was sick, but if you were just a viewer watching those 3 hours of Raw, they wouldn't know, okay, well, it might have been a little different or a little bit better because Kevin would have been there, but he's sick. The average person only knows I'm seeing Roman Reigns and company against the League of Nations. So they can only comment on what they know. I think sometimes, I do think at times, though, there is an unfairness amongst, and it happens to smarter fans because they're so in love with wrestling, and there's a belief now on the Internet at times that the way that I believe it should be is the way that it should be. And there's a difference between someone's opinion and the fact of how things are. And I think sometimes opinion and fact get very garbled on the Internet at times. And I do believe that there are people who sit there and honestly believe that the creative team, from Vince McMahon and Hunter on down, they're sitting there twirling their mustache like evil, Dick Dastardly back in the day going, what can we do to piss off the online fans today? And I don't believe that's ever a conversation in that company. What I believe is they're trying to do something.
I can tell you, absolutely never. It's just 3 hours of TV, and I think, and I tell Connor this all the time, and I've gone on record saying this, it's hard for the young kids to build a brand. I mean, the brands, Austin, Rock, Flair, Undertaker, Hunter, Shawn. I mean, help, I'm missing some names. Mick Foley. I mean, I'm missing 20 names here. But yeah. Randy Orton, John Cena. It's hard to build a brand, off and on. And I mean, you've got to be there for a period of time. People have to see you all the time. And it bothers me that I think a lot of the people, especially during football season, have the opportunity to turn the channel. If something's not going on they like, and then they miss somebody that has the opportunity to make a difference in their opinion, and they miss it, and it's just, it's the old thing. They don't like what they're watching and turn on the channel. It's a very competitive market.
And I think there's a lot of other factors that work against WWE right now. Obviously, you mentioned the talent depletion. There's nothing that could be done about that. It's not anything that could be predicted. It just happened that all of this fell upon them at the same time John Cena was taking time off. But what are you going to do? The first time John Cena, who's been probably better for that company and more loyal to that company than anybody in the modern era, asks for time off for an outside project, what are you going to tell him? No? I mean, it wouldn't be fair to Cena. And there's other things, too, like, the Nielsen numbers, obviously, those numbers are down, and there's an audience down. But I think part of it, too, is that the average person, they watch television and they consume their entertainment in a different way now. Like, in 1970s, Rick, you were wrestling in Mid-Atlantic, and if you wanted to watch Mid-Atlantic, you had to watch WRAL out of Raleigh or one of the surrounding stations, and the tapes were bicycled around. Chances are, in those markets, there were maybe 3, 4, 5, 9 channels, right? And so there wasn't that much programming on it. A lot of these channels weren't running 24 hours a day. Now, if I miss Raw and I'm the average consumer, I can go on YouTube and go through the WWE's channel and watch the highlights of Raw, or I can wait a month and watch it on the network, or I can catch one of how many replays on a different cable network. So, and if you look at their YouTube numbers or their social media numbers, they're massive. So I do believe there's at least a portion of the audience that's not watching it live on Raw. They might be watching it on their DVR and fast-forwarding through some of the segments. But I do believe, especially with younger fans, there are people who are just watching the highlights on YouTube or watching the highlights via Hulu or wherever, and that's how they're consuming the WWE product. So they're staying up on it, and they're checking out WWE.com and probably websites like PW Insider and whatnot, but they're not sitting there and watching it for 3 hours because there's a million other choices. The entire entertainment realm has completely changed from even where it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago when the Monday Night Wars were going on. If Raw and Nitro were on against each other now, that battle for ratings may not have been the same because I could watch one and tape the DVR the other, and as well as going back and forth, or wait the next day to watch one of them on Hulu. I mean, it's a completely different way people watch television now, and I think that doesn't get taken into consideration as often when the discussion is made about, oh, well, why are they down X amount of millions of viewers compared to this point? Well, what changed? Was the football season going on? Was there a hot postseason for baseball? Was there a brand new show that was on opposite Raw that, people are really talking about and is hot water cooler? Are more people watching it on social media? there's a lot of different factors. I don't think it's a case of if you plug one talent in or turn one guy heel or have this one match, things are going to turn around. I think it's just an overall, symbol of where society is and how they watch television now.
But, Mike, don't you think that's a little bit of an excuse? I mean, because ratings are way down from 14, 13, and 12. The world is not that different in 2015 than it was in 2013. Wouldn't you agree?
You know what? I think streaming services and things like that are far more pronounced and far more beneficial now than they were even 2 years ago. Like, I can only speak for myself, but a lot of what I watch on television is me watching it on Hulu the next day because I subscribe to Hulu. So if I'm going to watch The Flash or Arrow, I can either watch them live or I can go, all right, I'm going to save them for the next day and watch them on Hulu when I have some downtime and I have a chance to watch them.